You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Philly special. Ready? Here we go. Easy. Kill. Fight.
But that was a taste of what he was supposed to be.
Last year hurts.
Oh, and how this will all work out. Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see the first play if they don't try to get the football to Terrell Owens. Moves this way. Fires it his way. There's that 35 inside the 20. And on the first play of Philadelphia in an Eagle uniform.
Right, everybody. Welcome to Trending for Four Quarters, only on DSM Media. I am your host, Phil Stifle. We are live on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and even we're back after the hacking scandal of the century. Our YouTube page is back, so make sure you're sharing, liking, subscribing, clicking all the buttons. You know the deal. You know how it works. We appreciate it. And we got a jam-packed show tonight. We got two different shows pretty much into one. First half of the show, I got my special guest here, Buddy Walters. Okay, he is the CEO of Pro Level Sports Agency, ProLevelAgents.com. He's a great agent. We're going to dive into the mindset of the agent and the player relationship when things are going wrong. Lots of things are going wrong with the Eagles right now, the Sixers and Ben Simmons, and the John Gruden thing. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. Also, I have to throw it out there. I want to make sure people know Buddy from his agency because he's doing great work there, but he's also obviously, the nephew of a legend, someone I grew up loving, Buddy Ryan, and he's from the Ryan family, cousins with Rob and Rex. So, Buddy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And kind of embarrassed to say this, but during that intro, that is the first time I actually heard Nick Foles call Philly special. the first time. So I mean that's amazing. So
yeah. I was looking for different clips, and everybody uses that clip in intros and in highlight videos and stuff like that. But I kind of like once I found the clip with him actually calling, I'm like, I've got to put that in there because
that's awesome. Because like I said, that's the first time actually heard
it's
it.
It's a hard clip to find. I'm not gonna lie. I had to dig hard to find that one.
I'm sure. Wow.
So anyway, obviously, if you want to introduce, what you guys do there at your agency, Pro Level Agents, Sports Agency, so everybody just knows. I've been checking out the website. You got so many great clients on there, so many great agents that work for you. Just tell everybody a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, Phil, again, thank you for having me on. As you stated, my name's Buddy Walters. I'm the founder. I guess you could say CEO or whatever. Pro Level Sports Agency. But believe it or not, I mean, I don't hold myself higher than in any of my team members. We're all pro. Hashtag Pro Level Family.
That hashtag, I didn't know that. I would have put that in the intro. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. So basically, what we do, there's 10 of us currently on staff, including myself. There's 2 NFL, CFL agents. I'm considered an NFL contract advisor. I'm able to take my test in April. I just finished school, and the rest of the staff is what we consider player representatives. They handle more of the indoor arena football, Mexico, European, Japan, France. I mean, anywhere in the world outside of the NFL and CFL that they play 11-man American football, or here in the States like arena football. We have the ability to get players placed. Not to toot our own horn, but for the 2021 season, we were very successful. We had almost a 90% success rate with getting guys on teams. That was good. So far here for 2022, I believe, I didn't check my numbers, but we have offers for 20 some of our clients here since mid-September. And out of those, oh God, I want to say maybe 13 are actually signed to teams. I mean, the numbers may be off, but we're
it's a pretty high success level, is what you're saying.
So, yeah, and things are just starting really to heat up now. With the indoor arena teams, focusing on the 2022 season. Champions.
I think the XFL is coming back too, so you have another avenue there.
Well, they're not coming back to 2023. So
okay, I thought it was 2022. My bad.
It was originally supposed to be 2022, and they bumped it back to 2023. You got the owner of the Spring League, Brian Woods, who bought the rights to the USFL. And they're coming in 2022, but I mean things are starting to get hot and heavy here with teams reaching out, and the more teams reach out looking for players, the more we reach out looking for certain players. Linemen, if you're looking for a home, call me, email me.
Linemen, you're talking to the man. Because I love offensive line and defensive line. I love trench warfare.
Yes.
I love the trenches of football. I didn't play football much growing up, but if I did play long term, I would have been an offensive or defensive lineman. I just love that pounding in the trenches there. I just love it. I love listening to Trey Thomas and Jeremy Bridges, all these like former Philadelphia Eagle linemen that have podcasts and talk out there. I love line talk. So
these teams build their build everything around the lineman. So, they're looking for linemen first, and maybe a QB1, but they're building everything essentially around around the lineman. So we can never have enough offensive defensive linemen.
All right, so let's dive into it because I want to get the agent's perspective on things.
Yep.
Obviously, we got the John Gruden situation. We got the Ben Simmons saga that's going on with the Sixers.
Yeah.
And also I want to touch on the Eagles because obviously this is an Eagles show to an extent. So Eagles wise, I want to touch on that first. I got a little bit of your time here. So Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, you got a lot of young guys. You got Zach Ertz, a veteran, guys that are in an interesting situation with a young head coach in Nick Sirianni, who's learning on the go. And I really wanted to dive into the Miles Sanders part of it. Because everyone talks about Miles Sanders. He was this up-and-coming running back, a guy that had so much potential, and he's coming closer to the end of his rookie deal. And Nick Sirianni's offensive plan and the way he's doing things is not utilizing him. So as the agent, what would you be doing with Miles Sanders being like, look, I mean, he had 2 carries 2 games ago, and he should be a 20, 25 touch-a-game guy. He's a guy that was on the trend to be a Pro Bowler. What would you say to Miles Sanders, and what would Miles Sanders' mindset be at this point? And like your role to keep him motivated and focused at this point?
Yeah. So obviously, when you get a new, head coach and stuff like that, into a team, things change. And for Eagle fans, I mean, we can go back to the Chip Kelly. Saga,
whatever you want to, saga. That's the word of the day, right?
And how that debacle happened. I still say, had that not happened, Eagles would have had a Super Bowl ring sooner. But as far as Miles Sanders goes, because he is coming to the end of his rookie deal, I mean, obviously it has to be frustrating for him, because his job is to run the ball. His job is to catch the ball as well. Not as much as it is to run the ball, but he needs to be heavily involved in that offense. If it's not happening, he still maybe have private conversations with Sirianni, but he just needs to stay focused. Keep his head straight, because regardless what happens this season, it's teams aren't going to look at it so much that he didn't get X amount of passes or X amount of rushes. He's still going to get a payday based off of what his potential is. So if anything, him not running the ball much or him not catching the ball much, it's keeping him healthier for the next team that may come in there and throw how much ever money at him. And that's going to be a huge decision for Miles and his agent, because obviously they Miles is going to want paid. So it's like, how heavily invested is he into the Philadelphia Eagles, especially if the offense, the way it is right now, isn't having him at as a main focal point, unfortunately. So if you get somebody like the Sorry, go ahead.
So like Miles Sanders at the end of the last game, I don't know if you caught the last Eagles game this past week. He made 2 mental mistakes at the end of the game.
He did,
running out of bounds when they were trying to run the clock down. As his agent, would you and he got pulled, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni talks about accountability. He pulled him, put the rookie Kenneth Gainwell in. As his agent, would you be calling him after that game?
Absolutely.
Hey, you made a mistake. You got to work on focus and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what he did is football 101. That's taught at the youth level.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to run out the clock, last thing you want to do is run out of bounds and give your opponent that extra, in essence, that extra timeout. You cannot do that. So, we could chalk it up to brain farts or just not being focused. But yeah, as his agent, I'm definitely, on the telephone with him. I'm like, look, man, just stay focused. You got lucky. You guys got lucky.
It could have been a big momentum swing there.
Could have been. So, just, try to, focus him a little bit more, gear him in and, talk to him about, the long term. You obviously want that big contract. You obviously want that huge payday, regardless if it's in Philadelphia or where it may be. So you just need to show that, you can do this and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So staying with football, I don't want to spend a load amount of time because for some reason, I don't always feel comfortable talking about the really sensitive subjects. But the John Gruden situation is, there. And, I don't like to think that I don't want to say smart enough, but, I don't want to say things that, on those situations exactly. But first off, have you ever had any interaction with John Gruden in your career? Because obviously you come from a legendary football family. Your family's been around for a really long time. But on the flip side of the equation, again, same question I asked before. If one of your clients was a part of the Raiders right now, as an agent, would you instantly reach out to them when all this stuff started to break? And what would you say to them in that situation?
Yeah. So as far as, John Gruden goes, no, I've never, had contact, with John. I have had contact with Jay, but not John. If I had any clients, on the Raiders, I would obviously reach out, check their, their mindset, talk to them. But, let's be upfront. We all know. And once social media came out, emails and things like that, if you put it in writing, and I can't stress this enough, if there's any young players listening right now or coaches or, you can't stress this enough. Once you put it in writing, there's no taking it back. I don't care how sorry you are. I don't care what happens 10 years down the road, if you found God, if you're a changed man or whatever. Once you put it in writing, you put it in writing. If you post it on social media, and people think they hit the delete button, it's gone. It's never gone. Things find a way to come back and bite you. John, I'm sure he is remorseful. He should be very remorseful. The words that he used, especially, when I was in, football operations and rules enforcement, I didn't always like the decisions, Goodell made. Mm-hmm. But who signs the paychecks, at the end of the day? Now, granted, he wasn't with the NFL. He was with, ESPN. Mm-hmm. But, he came back into football, back into coaching, and thinking this is all just going to, not appear. You can't do this. You have the the homosexual player, the gay athlete, and kudos to Michael Sam, coming out and being the first openly gay athlete. Does he deserve to be called the F word? Absolutely. No, just like a black person does not deserve to be called the N word. You just don't do that. And unfortunately, there's more of this that goes on and has gone on in the NFL and other sports. It just has not yet come to light. Mm-hmm. The old days back, when my uncle was coaching and call them the old timers, they all had mindsets. And do I think a gay athlete would have survived back then? No, I honestly don't. But this is a different time, this is a different age, and you can't go to a restaurant and say no gays allowed, no blacks allowed. You can't have that mindset, especially a head football coach in a National Football League who coaches, a gay player on the team right now. Black athletes, you cannot do it. And I don't care if it was, just in, venting or just a ha-ha calling Goodell, the F-A-G-G word, saying that, about Michael Sam or saying whatever. The lesson here is once you put it in writing, you can't take that back. You can't take it back.
I tell that to everybody. I mean, I joke, but I like to think of myself as a good Catholic boy, raised, in Delco and a good Catholic school. I was taught better than to be like that. But I always joked that thank God there was no social media when I was in college. There was just AOL and that was it. And nothing on AOL even exists anymore. But I tell all my employees at my pizza shop all the time, you got to be careful because you just everything is there and forever. Yep. And it's a sad thing. And it's sad that we have to live in a world that, people still are so naive about what they send out and what they say. You know what? There'll be people out there. If I made an opinion on it, they'll say, well, it's their right to say whatever they want. It's a free country. Sure. I get all that. But when you're, like you said, head coach of an NFL football team, the commentator on Monday Night Football for ESPN, you have to be better. And you have to set the example for people that are smaller to, not be like that. Not, set the example of it's okay to be bad because you get away with it all the time. So it was just really interesting to hear your points because, I mean, I think about the players on the Raiders. And next week the Eagles play the Raiders. Yeah. And, just what their mindset is. And, knowing that an agent would probably reach out to those players, it's interesting to hear that because, it's almost like for you a teaching point for the players as well. Like, look what he did. Don't forget.
Absolutely.
You're a public figure, whether you like it or not. You have to always be better and set the example.
Sure, and if I can just add one more thing there, the First Amendment, freedom of speech is one thing. Mm-hmm. We also have hate speech, and we also got discrimination. Mm-hmm. It's entirely different things. So yes, you're entitled to freedom of speech, but you're not entitled to slang out hate speech or discriminate against somebody. So
absolutely, and I'm just bringing up because I know I made a post about something totally unrelated to this the other day, and all the trolls kept coming out, on social media, and it's almost like the trolls were trying to egg me on to be a worse person, but I had to be the bigger person because of, obviously, like I said, I like to think I was raised the right way by my father and my mother.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really interesting situation on the players level because again, we'll see this week. We could definitely see that it affected the Raiders last week and their performance on the field. It'll be interesting to see how it affects them going forward. And unfortunately, I don't have his name written down here. Their special teams coordinator took over as head coach.
Right.
I would almost love to just get 2 minutes of his time to ask him what his message would be to the team going forward because that's a tough situation. There's some expectations for the Raiders this year.
Yeah, it is. And as far as the players go, I think it's relief now because they don't have this, the dark Gruden cloud, hanging over them. But at the same time, with the new head coach, stepping in, it's he's filling some big shoes. Gruden was a good football mind, maybe not the best person, as we're finding out. So they're the Raiders are going to have their ups and downs, but I'm confident, and nothing against Philadelphia, but I'm confident the Eagles are going to, or I'm sorry, the Raiders are going to put this behind them and come out focused for this game.
Excellent. All right, so a final question. As I got here, before our next guest joins us at 9:30, Ben Simmons and the Sixers saga. I'm sure there's no way anybody in the world can't know what's going on with Ben Simmons and the Sixers.
Yeah.
So first off, the first way I want to phrase it is, did Rich Paul and Clutch Sports handle this whole situation? Because the more you read about it, like me, I love to read and digest as much content as possible. The more and more I look at it, obviously Ben Simmons was unhappy with the situation in Philly. But on the flip side of the equation, it almost seems like Rich Paul and his agency has advised him and pushed him in the wrong directions to an extent. I mean, where do you stand on that whole situation?
At the end of the day, speaking, with our clients, we let our clients know we don't make no decisions based on, your behalf without speaking to you first. And whatever team or whatever you want to do is solely your decision. We may advise you one way or the other, but we don't make that decision for you. So, if the agent is, pressuring Ben to, do this or do that, obviously there's a nice payday there, there for the agent. But
and he just signed a $180 million deal less than a year ago.
But the agent isn't going to capitalize on that if Ben Simmons isn't playing or his career goes down the toilet because of this.
So side question there. So he's obviously an agent makes a percentage of the contract, correct?
Right.
So Ben Simmons, he was holding out for a while. So Ben Simmons was being fined and, not paid for missing time. Does the agent lose money when he's doing that as well? Or is the agent still, contractually obligated to get money from the player?
It all depends how it's written up. Normally, the agent gets the percentage off of the negotiated contract. So the agent's still going to get his or her money while, Ben Simmons is, essentially, taking a hit.
Okay.
So, the agent, it isn't going to take the hit unless the agent decides to, give money back, which I don't know too many agents that are going to, just volunteer to give, that money back. But, essentially, it's Ben Simmons' name's in the spotlight. Ben Simmons getting fined, Ben Simmons not getting paid, but the agent, is still entitled, to their cut.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Ben Simmons comes to you, this, offseason, like, dude, I can't play with Joel Embiid anymore. I don't want to be in Philly.
Yeah.
I just can't. I know I just signed this big deal. You got to get me out of Philly. I don't even want to go to camp or anything like that. The fines and all that kind of stuff. Are you going to tell him that, look, because it seems like from the outside world and all the different articles and reports that are on there, that Rich Paul encouraged him to not show up and to take these fines and all. So look, you as the agent would be like, all right, we could try to work with the Sixers to get you traded, but would you have advised your player to go and show up and just tuck your head down, let me do my job and work on it, because your image is going to suffer and it's going to be harder to get you traded and out of town? Or would you have gone the route and be like, look, you're the player. If you don't want to go, I'll back you 100%. Just understand the situation.
Yeah, it's tough because obviously at the end of the day,
totally bogged. Like there used to be a Simmons jersey hanging up back there. It's not, because my mind is so messed up on this whole Ben Simmons saga. Yeah,
because there's always more that goes on than what's released to the public. So, we only know what's being reported. But ultimately, if Ben was my client, or represented, by Pro Level, we talk, with him, see where his head is, see what he wants to do. If he is adamant against, going back to Philadelphia, then, we know where, he stands. Sometimes for contract negotiations, you tell the player, hold out because you can, ultimately, at times get a better deal.
Absolutely.
In this case, I mean, while Ben Simmons' image has taken a hit right now, I don't think it's, irreparably damaged. Okay. Ben Simmons is going to bounce back from this, regardless if he wants to stay in Philly or, if he wants to leave. I'm not sure how long his contract length is, with his agent, but, at some point,
with his agent, that's totally, different.
Yeah. At some point, maybe, start talking to, seeking, advice elsewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's actually something I was thinking about the other day, because he obviously showed up yesterday, late last night, to Philly, took his COVID test. He's, the COVID protocols, he can't work with the team just yet and all. Somebody actually made an interesting comment the other day or today on Twitter. It was one of the reporters, like, what if Ben Simmons goes in the locker room once he's cleared and can go in the locker room and just takes the team aside? Look, I screwed up, my bad, and that whole thing, it says, look, I obviously I got issues, I screwed up though. Let's put them aside and win.
Yeah.
In this situation, is that, if he was to do that, is that coming from him? Is that coming from the agent? Would you advise a player like, look, it didn't play out the way we strategized, try to make the best of the situation? Is that something you would say?
Yeah, I would advise him to try to, do everything he can to make amends. Mm-hmm. You obviously don't want to burn bridges, in professional sports. So again, the fact that Ben Simmons, went back, I mean, he may have had more pull, in that decision than, what the agent did. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would advise him, talk to your teammates, particularly, captains and, the veterans. If you can sell to the veterans, then, the younger guys are going to, buy into it as well. So, be honest, be remorseful, and, ultimately it's going to show on the field or I'm sorry, on the court, where his head is.
You stay in the field, the court, it's all the same.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we wrap this segment up, as we wait for my second guest to come on the air here, as much as you've, pay attention to Eagles, do the Eagles stand any chance this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The Tampa Toms, as I like to call them, the Tampa Tom Brady's?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Eagles have a good team. They need to get adjusted to, Nick Sirianni. And, Nick Sirianni needs to get adjusted to his players. Jalen Hurts, I mean, I still think he's a hell of a quarterback. And there might be, 99% of the population out there that disagrees with me. But, he has weapons to throw it to. Just needs some better, play calling coming in there.
I agree. I mean, so that whole thing there, bringing up Nick Sirianni, you got a player. Obviously, he's a rookie head coach and he's making mistakes. But I like you said about Jalen Hurts, I've bought into Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni as the leader of men and the leader off the field and the practice guy and the press conference. Like, they say all the right things and they do the right thing. we don't know if it'll translate on the field. We bring up Miles Sanders or say Zach Ertz, who's, maybe on his way out, maybe not. If a player comes to you and be like, yo, dude, dude, I don't know why I said dude, but agent, my boss, the guy that helps me get these contracts, like, how are you handling that situation? Because there's a lot of question marks on the field. Off the field, not so much. Would you tell your players, like, your agent, the people you represent, relax, let's see how this plays out? Or are you going to try to, go a different route with them?
No, I think you need to, again, you need to see where the player's, head is. If the player's head is out of it, me talking to them or, whoever talking to them, isn't really going to change too much. So, you just need to see where their head is. It's still early in the season and anything can happen. I think Tampa, is a beatable team. I think the Eagles, if they get their stuff together, can beat Tampa. I don't care if Tampa got Brady or who, they're a beatable team. But just real quick, speaking on Nick Sirianni, I had the pleasure of meeting his brother, Mike Sirianni, this past Saturday. For those that don't know, his brother is the head football coach at D3 Washington and Jefferson out near Pittsburgh, PA. And he's actually recruiting my son. So we went out there to meet with him on Saturday. And, Mike is the older brother. And, he said everything Nick learned from Mike. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree there.
Yeah, he's a really entertaining energy, great guy. Like I know everybody hated his opening press conference with the Eagles, but I bought in from day one. So our second guest is here. So I'm gonna work Buddy off.
Okay.
Bringing in JC here. So JC, I'm all about connecting people. JC Allen, meet Buddy Walters. Buddy Walters is talent agent.
How you doing?
Sports agent. He also is the nephew of Buddy Ryan, former Eagles head coach and cousin of Rob and Rex Ryan. So I'm all about introducing people. So Buddy Walters, meet JC.
How you doing, JC?
Alan, beat writer for the Eagles. So again, Buddy, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We're going to see a lot more Buddy Walters on DSM Media because I love his insight as a player agent. Again, Pro Level Sports Agency. You can find it at prolevelagents.com. See all the different players he represents. And, of course, Buddy Walters. You can find him at Buddy Walters. It's really simple on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. Take care, gentlemen.
We'll talk soon, buddy. Have a good night.
Absolutely. You too.
Excellent. And now we got JC.
Hey.
JC Allen from the Pewter Report over there covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Welcome to DSM Media and Trending for Four Quarters.
Hey, happy to be here. How are we doing tonight?
We're doing great. I was bringing in, I had Buddy here because, as a sports agent, getting the mindset of players, and that, how the agent represents them is something that intrigues me a lot because in Philly right now, whether you're talking the Eagles, with certain players not getting the playing time that they deserve or on not a Super Bowl contending team, or whether you want to talk about the John Gruden situation or the Ben Simmons saga that's going on, it's really interesting to get that different mental and, take on the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all fascinating. I'm actually going to start a series here soon for Pewter Report where I'm going to go behind the Bucs and I'm going to talk to, the social media director, the grounds crew, strength and conditioning, the team writer, the team reporter, and kind of pick their brain because, we get access to the coaches, we get access to the players, kind of behind the scenes. What are these, the PR department, what are these guys, the scouting department? What's a day in the life of them? Like what's a week, what's a week leading up to a game? What's the game day like for them? What are they doing? What do they got going on? So I'm going to, I find that all fascinating as well. And, the more, you learn about the sport that you love, I think, the better you are for it. So that's why, I love learning about it.
Again, I didn't even know you. I put out a post on Twitter. You're like, who's the best Bucs guy to get on the show to talk Eagles Bucs? And you messaged me and I'm like, this is, and then like 4 other people messaged me your name. I'm like, this is perfect. This is working out great. I love that theory there. And that actually, you might have just inspired me for some new content on DSM Media as well. So I love that.
Give me the credit for it.
I am all about giving credit to everybody. Again, so we got JC Allen. It's at JC Allen NFL, the Pewter Report, at Pewter Report on Twitter. You've been covering the Bucs now. I asked you before for 2 years now.
Correct.
Not sure how long you've been in media in general, but man, 2 years to cover the Bucs. And I got to ask you, you get your first 2 years covering the Bucs, and Tom Brady comes to town. What kind of an honor and how great is it to be like, my dad always taught me growing up, you might not always love, like I grew up during the Jordan era, it's like, you might not love Jordan and the Bulls because you're a Sixers fan, but you better respect the fact that you get to watch the GOAT at his sport. So you get to cover the GOAT as part of the career. What's that like?
Well, I'll tell you, and we haven't spoke before, but I'm a Tampa transplant. I moved down here a little over 2 years ago now. I'm from New England, so it's been amazing. That's an amazing thing. That's great. And Tom Brady is actually part of the reason why I even broke into sports media. I have no experience. I didn't go to journalism school, school of broadcasting, anything like that. I'm fully green. I moved down here in Tampa. The year before that, Brady came down here, and with my son, I'm a football fan at first, and my team could disappear from the league, I'm still gonna watch football. So I'm like, we're down here in Tampa, NFC, AFC. They only play each other once every 4 years, unless it's a Super Bowl or something. So I'm down Tampa. Let's adopt this NFC team to be my the home team, and let's root for them because obviously if they do well, football, whatever. Jameis was terrible, 30 interceptions. Laughable. As soon as Brady threw that interception, pick six to end the season, my wheels started turning. I'm like, oh, he's not. Then things started coming out. So I wrote this long soliloquy on my Facebook and was like, Brady could come to Tampa. I got ridiculed, blasted by all my friends. He's staying in New England. He's retiring. He's going to LA Chargers, whatever. And then sure enough, a month and a half later, he signs with the Bucs. So I'm looking, I'm not sure how it is in Philly, but up in New England, they have two TV channels dedicated to sports, New England Sports Network and Comcast Sports Network. So, I'm looking, I'm like flipping the channels. I'm like, they have, Fox Florida, but they've got like fishing or NASCAR on. I'm like, is nobody talking about Brady signing here? So I stumbled upon this group on Facebook and this show. It's called The Sports Web of Peter Blake. And I stumbled upon that, and he calls it the evolution of sports talk radio. It's a StreamYard podcast, but it's also live. He takes phone calls, reads the comments, interacts, whatever. So I ended up calling in and talking about Brady and, talking about Brady, whatever, calling in. And they're like, hey, do you want to be a scheduled guest on the show? I'm like, yeah. And then a couple more times doing that, they're like, do you want to write for us? Like, yeah, sure. Do you want your own show? Yeah, sure. Then I do my legwork. I get my own credentials. I'm credentialed to the NFL, credentialed to the Bucs. I'm interviewing players before training camp, going to training camp. Because of COVID, I wasn't going to games last year, but still in press conferences and stuff like that. Super Bowl comes around. I'm credentialed to the NFL, so I got credentials through the NFL to do all the Zoom meetings and everything, which was great because I ended up catching COVID the week of Super Bowl. So I couldn't go to the Super Bowl, but I got to do the Zoom meetings. So I'm talking to, all the Buccaneers players, Gronk and all these guys and Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. And, then the draft comes along, and the offseason is my favorite. Like I've been doing offseason stuff, mock drafts, all sorts of stuff for years.
You don't post 40 mock drafts a day, do you, on your page?
I don't.
We might stop following each other really quick. It's the NBA trade machine, and it's the random people doing mock drafts that flood my timeline that I can't take anymore.
I don't. But after the draft, Pewter Report was, I talked to a couple guys during minicamp, and they were interested in bringing me on, and they're kind of like the big deal. Obviously you have the local newspaper, you have ESPN, NFL Network, The Athletic, but they're right up there with them and covering the team for 26 years. And I jumped at the opportunity, and I've been, it's been amazing ever since. Guys are great to work with. Not that the old, group I was with wasn't great to work with, but it's, the notoriety, the access, the ability to get, really talk to the players and the PR staff and everything like that. It's just been an amazing experience. So that's kind of my journey.
We need to talk Eagles Bucs in a second here, but on a side note, my goal is I own a pizza shop here in the Philadelphia area, and we're trying to sell it. And my wife and I, our goal is to move to the Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete region. Beautiful. So you might be my contact to give me, some more things to do, because I want to, I've been podcasting. I started at the beginning of COVID, doing some podcasting and stuff like that, some writing, and I've really taken off on this whole DSM media and hosting regular shows here and all. But you might be my contact. And you said something funny about your home team. Like my dad always taught me when I was a kid, you will always support your hometown team. You know, I'm from Philadelphia. They will always be my favorite team. But if I move somewhere else, I need to support the town I live in. So if I live in that area, I'm going to have to
support the Cowboys, right?
Buccaneers as well.
Unless of the Cowboys, right?
Well, yeah, that's another whole subject. I just won't move there because of the Cowboys. So, all right, let's talk Eagles. You know, Buccaneers Thursday night football. The trend on my show the last couple of weeks hasn't been keys to victory. It's been keys to keeping it competitive, because the expectations obviously aren't as high for the Eagles as they are for the Buccaneers this year. So, you know, I want to talk about the injuries and some different individual players of the Buccaneers. Do the Eagles actually stand a chance? And do the Eagles have, or what can the Eagles do to stay competitive against the Buccaneers this week?
Yeah, I think as I take my toward the Eagles podcast, I think a lot of people are shocked to hear me say, yeah, I think they do. I'll get into my prediction later, but I think this is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. Thursday night games are Thursday night games. You know, they're the weirdest game on the schedule. They need to get rid of them. Bruce Arians hates them. He's made his thoughts clear on that. But
I agree with that 100%.
I think that there are things this Eagles team can do, and that's, take advantage of some of the things the Bucs have been bad at, and that's specifically tackling and allowing yards after catch. They've struggled a little bit, obviously banged up on injuries and stuff like that, but they struggled a little bit containing, the tight ends and also running backs. We saw last week Myles Gaskin had a game, and they utilized him as, in the running game through the passing game, because the teams aren't going to be able to run on this Bucs team. They're first in the league in run defense, letting up, just over 45 yards a game. So teams are abandoning their run early and often. They're going through the air, and I'll get into those numbers and stats and how they're skewed, and they don't tell the full story. Later, a little bit later in the show, but I think that's one way you beat them is you use that extension of the running backs in the passing game. You target those outside linebackers. You target those things, because the Bucs are going to let you have things underneath, and they're going to rely on solid tackling and making the right decisions. And that's something they struggled with so far. They've really, they've had given up the most tackles in the league, given up the most yards after catch in the league. And I think if you can get some favorable matchups on Kevin Minter, who's going to be playing instead of Levante David, and also Devin White, who's struggled in pass protection, regressed a little bit this year. I think those are matchups you can exploit, and then you put the pressure on the secondary to make those tackles if they get to the next level. Make sure that Devin White is wrapping up after he makes a catch, but still, that's a 6-7 yard catch, puts you in a good position for second and third down. So those are some of the ways I think they can. Obviously, self-inflicting wounds. You can't beat yourself if you're Philly, right. But I think targeting those areas and using those running backs, because Miles Sanders is pretty good, out of the backfield. You can catch the ball. You got, was it Khalil Herbert, right? Who's the other running back?
Kenny Gainwell, rookie from Memphis.
I knew it was one of those two backs that were good at it. Yeah. So, utilize those guys out of the backfield, underneath routes, post wheel routes, flats, crossing routes over the middle, shallow crossing routes over the middle.
So you're saying that's what the Buccaneers do poorly, covering those short, because honestly, the Eagles, the Eagles don't run the ball. We've been criticizing Nick Sirianni, obviously a young, inexperienced head coach. Miles Sanders 2 weeks ago had 2 rushes. Yeah. Kenny Gainwell had 1 in the game. So they literally ran the ball 3 times 2 weeks ago. And then last week, it was only about 10 or 12 times. So we know the Buccaneers can't stop, the pass, but they can stop the run. But on the flip side of the equation, the Buccaneers have to know that the Eagles don't actually run the ball. So
you guys do have Jalen Hurts, though, and that's where it comes in, and that's why the rush offense, your running offense, is ranked 13th in the league, because Jalen Hurts can beat you with his legs.
Actually, that's an interesting point. I was going to bring it up at some point in this interview. Is what I know what the Philadelphia fan base thinks of Jalen Hurts. It's split down the middle, whether he's got a chance or not. I know what the media in Philadelphia, because I talk to them all the time, but I love asking when I get a reporter from another city in here what they feel, or what their city, or what the rest of the world thinks of Jalen Hurts. I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I loved him in Oklahoma, loved him in Alabama. I was a huge Carson Wentz fan. I didn't like him getting drafted to Philly because I was a Wentz guy. but I love his talent, his leadership, his off the field and
He's a winner.
You know, he absolutely, he's a winner. He really is. He doesn't do it pretty all the time, but he wins. So, like, what are the Buccaneers fan base and the reporters down there? What do they think about Jalen Hurts coming to town this week?
I'm a huge Jalen Hurts guy. I know Scott Reynolds, who has been working with Pewter Report for 27 years, is a big Scott Reynolds guy. You know, you look at all of our predictions that we just put out today at pewterreport.com. Go check them out. And we all have this game. It's a touchdown game. It's a one-score game. You know, because we respect Jalen Hurts and what he can do, and because of what it means, you know, what he can do against this Bucs defense potentially. I think that's going to be a big thing. Jalen Hurts, you know, kind of jumping around all over here, but Jalen Hurts,
that's what we do on this show. We jump around because whoever I have on as a guest always brings something up that kind of throws me for. I got a list of questions and I just kind of jump around depending on what you say.
Yeah, no, for real. But I think, you know, you look at this Buccaneers pass defense, right? I mean, pass rush. It's one of the, you know, most vaunted pass rushers. You got Ndamukong, Vita Vea, Will Golston, who's turned it on 2 sacks this year. Shaq Barrett, JPP, Devin White, a good pass rusher in his own right, had 9 sacks last year. And then Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, you throw him in the mix. You know, they're going to have to be very disciplined in their rushing lanes when they're going after the quarterback. Todd Bowles likes to blitz more than anybody in the league by a far amount. And you've got a guy now, the first time, you know, in this matchup all season, that can move. You know, he's not. And then you look at last week, 6 missed sacks by the defense on Jacoby Brissett. Now, you know, Jalen Hurts is not the same build. He's not a big guy who's going to be able to, you know, stand there and shake off tackles, but he's a guy who can run from tackles, you know? So, and that's one thing you're going to have to do if you're the Bucs defense, is you're going to have to play disciplined in your rush lanes and disciplined when you're actually blitzing, because the last thing you want to do is overshoot a gap, overshoot the quarterback, or let him out of your grasp. And now he's just extended a drive with his legs. And that's something that Jalen Hurts can do. I mean, he's got 256 rushing yards so far this season, 3 touchdowns.
He almost has more rushing yards than Miles Sanders at this point.
Yeah.
Which is sad, because Miles Sanders is somebody that's got loads. Actually, I just brought it up on my screen here. He's actually got more rushing yards now after last week than Miles Sanders. Never mind. So he actually leads the team in rushing. So that's pretty sad. You actually brought up an interesting thing, because you said the missed sacks for the Buccaneers. That's something, in my opinion, that the Eagles do. They don't get home. They're some of the guys, Javon Hargrave obviously leads the team in sacks. You know, their front 4 on the defensive line of the Eagles coming into the season was the one, no doubt about it, strength of this team. But outside of Javon Hargrave, we have barely any sacks. And it's because of the missed sacks and not getting home. And Tom Brady is not Jalen Hurts in the elusiveness category. And I think the only way to even have chance, the only remote chance, is to rattle Tom Brady a little bit and hit him a few times. But you got to be able to get home. And that's something I fear that the Eagles, again, Tom Brady last week, he was pressured a whole bunch last week. But he had really good, I forget the exact numbers. I was on a show last night as a guest, and they brought up he was like 5 of 7, a touchdown and whatnot.
Yeah.
High quarterback rating. Yeah. So you have to be able to get home against whatever quarterback you are, especially someone like Tom Brady.
Yeah, you look at the touchdown pass to Giovanni Bernard, look at the touchdown pass to the 62-yard to Antonio Brown. He got hit on both of those plays. You know, the blitz was coming in. This is a guy who knows how to stand in the pocket, get the ball at the last minute, take a hit, and you know, put it where it needs to be. So, you know, the key to getting after Tom Brady is to do it with your guys. It's not to send guys, is to do it with your guys. And, you know, Fletcher Cox and Hargrave and Barnett are some good guys that they have that they should be able
Barnett
to.
Actually is Dark Barnett gets a lot of criticism in Philadelphia because he makes a lot of boneheaded late hits and, you know, a lot of boneheaded mistakes.
He'll always have that strip sack to steal the Super Bowl, though, right?
No, that was Brandon Graham, who's out for the year.
Oh, Brandon Graham. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, he's out for the year. Dark Barnett, though, has been good if you take away his mistakes, you know, at times that he makes. And he's actually, you know, Javon Hargrave's getting all the credit as the best defensive lineman on the Eagles and one of the best in football this year. But Dark Barnett has a higher, you know, pressuring the quarterback percentage there, you know, than Hargrave, because he's getting there. He's just not getting home.
Finishing.
And when he hits the quarterback, it's 3 seconds too late, and here comes another penalty and whatnot. And that's why everybody talks poorly about, you know, Dark Barnett. So, all right, I got this is more me personally that I got to ask you. And I would love to know why the situation's playing out the way it is in Tampa Bay. Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones. Okay. Before Leonard Fournette got to Tampa, I was a huge Ronald Jones fan. I'm a fantasy football guy. I love to study, the skilled players on all teams for that reason. Fournette came to town last year. Still, Ronald Jones was still for the most part, the lead guy, if you want to call him that. It obviously Leonard Fournette has taken over as that lead guy this year, over Ronald Jones. Is that going to be like that for sure? Is he just in the doghouse? Is Ronald Jones not just as talented as I thought he is? Like, what's the situation there with that running back room? Because, the Eagles struggle when running backs go to the outside. Fournette's a pounded up the middle kind of guy. He's developing his, pass catching abilities a little bit this year. But Ronald Jones is someone that kind of strikes me as a guy that would actually be successful against the Eagles' deficiencies on defense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Ronald Jones, watching him in training camp, we all thought he was going to be the number one back, but I think it's a mental aspect right now. That fumble that really kind of messed him up a little bit. He's not good in pass protection. He's less than mediocre at catching the ball, but he is the best pure runner on the team. I mean, the problem with him is he's been doubting himself. I feel like, not hitting holes with authority like he did, in the years prior. I mean, this guy was a guy who was 22 yards away from 1,000 yards last season, and he's barely seeing the field now. And it's just because I don't necessarily think it's a doghouse. I just think it's because he can't get out of his mental aspect of the game and opportunity. I mean, this is a guy, Leonard Fournette. I mean, before last year, somehow forgot how to catch. He had over 70 balls in Jacksonville, and was at one point talked about one of the best running backs in the league, certainly from a fantasy wise.
Absolutely.
But now he's the one taking advantage. He's been catching the ball better. His pass protection has been improving, and he's been running with authority. He's hitting the holes. He's not dancing. The first couple of weeks of the season, he looks like he was auditioning for Dancing with the Stars, and that he's kind of cut that out. And not only that, he's been kind of dragging people along with him and taking them, and hitting the hole and giving the Bucs what they need is balance. And
it's interesting you say that because I really thought you say mental with Ronald Jones. I actually thought he was in the doghouse because the big fumble week one. I just thought maybe because I don't follow the Buccaneers close enough, or
he was given the start week
close
2
enough. Bruce Arians to me struck me as a guy that would that mistake there would put somebody in the doghouse.
Oh, he actually named Ronald Jones a starter week 2, and he just couldn't take it. Just not taking advantage of the snaps that he's given to him. So in week 2, he actually let up a huge blunder in pass protection that got Tom Brady drilled. So it's mistake 1, mistake week 2, and just not being able to get out of his head. I don't know, and then just not getting the opportunities because someone else is making the most of your opportunities. It's NFL. It's not for long. It's any given Sunday. If you can't perform and someone else does, and you're not performing. Same thing. It's OJ Howard, right? It's the same thing, with OJ Howard this week. Gronk is not going to play. Gronk will most likely be back after this, game. The mini bye week that they have here, he'll probably be back ready to play. OJ Howard, this is his last opportunity. He's going to be probably the starting tight end. Outsnapped Cam Brate last week. He needs to go off. He needs to show like, hey, yes, I am the guy you drafted in the first round. I'm not the bust. I'm not the the injury riddled guy. I can be an impact player for this team, and he needs to just go out there, ball out, and make Tom Brady look at him every single play, and just dominate his matchups. And it's the same kind of deal with OJ Howard. I mean, this is a guy making $6 million this year to barely play.
Yeah, no, I agree. So and that's funny because I actually was talking about it on the show last night that I was guesting on was the whole OJ Howard Cameron Brate with no Gronkowski. So I love you bringing that up there. So one final question about the Buccaneers before we talk one more question about the Eagles and then give some predictions out here. So obviously you got, Godwin, you got Evans, you got Brown. I mean, you got 3 stud wide receivers.
Yeah.
The Eagles have 2 really good cornerbacks in Big Play Slay, Darius Slay and Steven Nelson coming over this year from, the Pittsburgh Steelers. How is the wide receiver core playing out for those that don't pay close attention? Slay always sticks to the top guy, but it's kind of hard to tell who the top guy really is that Darius Slay is going to cover. Nelson is an outside guy. They don't have somebody to really cover the slot. So, that could be Antonio Brown. It could be Godwin. How is the wide receiver versus cornerbacks of the Eagles, matchup going to play out?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, Mike Evans is an outside guy. Chris Godwin does the best of his work in the slot, though he's flexible to play inside out. Same thing with Antonio Brown. He's more of an outside guy, but can play out in the slot as well. I would imagine Slay is going to be your guy locked up on Mike Evans throughout the game. That's a guy you're going to say, okay, let's try to take Slay. Let's try to take away Mike Evans with him, and we'll figure out the other side. Whoever gets Avonte Maddox is getting the ball.
That's my fear right there. That is absolutely my fear.
That's going to be whoever gets Maddox, whoever gets McPherson, Scott, McCain, whoever they're throwing in there. That's the guy they're going after.
You're killing me there.
Yeah. So, and I mean, they have Tyler Johnson as well. They can go, 12 personnel. They can go 11 personnel. Really, whatever they want to do, they'll have ways to move the ball on this team, actually into the running game. I mean, you're going up against a team that's got, the second to last worst running game in the league, 142, ranked 30th overall a game. I think they're going to try to get that Leonard Fournette going early. I think they're going to try to get him going. I think this could be a game that he gets over 100 yards. He's been close the last 2 games. I think this is the game he finally does it. They're gonna have their hands full with those wide receivers, that's for sure. I expect Mike Evans to still make plays. I expect Godwin to still make plays. I mean, this is a team that last week they went up against Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Eric Rowe, Justin Coleman, Jason McCourty. Like they have a good secondary last week too. Didn't show it as much on paper as this Eagles team does, and obviously through the eye test, but. I think everyone will still get some yards, but I think whoever's got that matchup, is going to really be the go-to target for Tom Brady. And it could be Godwin, it could be Antonio Brown. Either one, I think they'll have a.
You got to give me some fantasy advice. Which one am I playing on in my DFS?
Oh, you stay away from them. I didn't draft one Buccaneer because of that.
I have got on the DSM Media Fantasy League. I do have Godwin. He's my 3rd wide receiver on my team, but I still do play him. But, I host a DFS show every Thursday night, which for anybody watching, DFS, no pun intended, is getting postponed till Friday night so I can watch the Eagles, just so you know. Obviously, I can't do my show, in the middle of an Eagles game. All right, before we get predictions, one final question from an out-of-towner. I asked you about your thoughts on Jalen Hurts, as a national guy or out-of-towner. Thoughts on Nick Sirianni and what he's doing? Because I always say, just like I say about Jalen Hurts, the off-the-field leader, the guy that motivates and coaches, and the highlights you see from practice and what he does, I buy into them as a leader of men. Will it translate is what we're still learning. What does the outside world think of Nick Sirianni?
I think it's early, I think it's still early,
Absolutely.
You kind of like what you see. He's not Brandon Staley, who I think the entire NFL community, he's quickly becoming one of my favorite coaches, But I think it's a thing that, we're still learning about him, what he's going to do. A little bit of a tie-in, with everything that's been going on and some injury woes and whatnot. But I think the way he's got Jalen Hurts playing, I think the way he's got, Jalen Reagor turning around and Devontae Smith up to speed pretty well, those are – it's encouraging. Obviously, the offensive line takes a massive hit. You're now missing both of your starting guards, your right tackle,
everybody.
You're
pretty much everybody. You moved your left tackle that never played football to right tackle.
Yeah.
You got your left tackle bust from 3 years ago playing left tackle. It's just just a train wreck right now.
I think it's it's still a wait and see, but I think the early results, like I said, I don't think this Eagles team, I think this team is better than its 2-3 record indicates.
Okay.
And I if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm not saying there's no way we can chase down these Cowboys, even though you got the one up game already. I think there's a silver lining here, silver linings playbook, if not to be. That was Philly,
that
right?
was so cheesy. I won't lie, that was cheesy right there.
It's all good.
Hey, look, I'll be honest. I said the Eagles would be 2-5 after the first 7 games. After this week, we got the Raiders next week. But the second half of their season is really, I got the Giants twice, the Washington football team twice, the Jets. They've got winnable games after this week. It was all the first 6-7 weeks, the learning experience, the getting the kinks out as a coach and whatnot. So, if you got to give a prediction, how do you see the game playing out? I don't know if you save your predictions for a certain show.
No,
So if you don't want to say a final score, I always save my final score prediction for this show, no matter what appearances I do. So
I got a final score. We put our Pewter predictions out today. Definitely go check that out on pewterreport.com if you want to check those out and learn a little bit more about this Bucs team before tomorrow night's matchup. But I think like I said, if you look at the Bucs defense and the passing yards, I think those are skewed a little bit. They've been one of the teams that no one runs on because they can't run the ball on them. 45 yards a game, and they're giving up early on running the ball. So I think the passing numbers are a little bit skewed. Yards after catch and missed tackles has been huge, and that's what I'm going to focus on this game. If the Bucs are going to win this game, and I think they should, and I think they could win this game, it's going to have to come up with strong tackling, not giving up yards after the catch, and mental errors. I mean, we're talking about a team that is right behind Philadelphia in the most penalized team in the league, and ahead of Philadelphia and most penalty yards. They have the third most penalty yards in the league. So obviously Thursday night games are weird. The Bucs have struggled in primetime. Their struggles continue this year as well, winning close games on last-minute field goals in both of their primetime games against both the Patriots and both the Dallas Cowboys. They're 4-8 all-time in Thursday night games and struggles, and we know how much they favor the home team. The Eagles are going to be, spending extra time at the weight room and spending extra time in the hot tub and in the ice tub and in the, the sleep therapy chamber or whatever they're in, the frozen, whatever it's called, cryotherapy. And they have all that while the Bucs are going to be doing a walkthrough in the hotel lobby, the day before the game. So
you're doing everything you can to convince me to pick the Eagles here right now. You really are.
There's definitely some aspects, and I think, like I said, I pointed out earlier in the show what the Eagles need to be able to win this game, but I think the Bucs should be able to do enough to win a close one in Philly, see through to the silver lining of this mini bye, getting players back injured. Levante David could be back next week. Antoine Winfield should be back for the next game. You should have Gronk back. Still up in the air about Sean Murphy-Bunting because he's able to come back. So there's something to look forward to, but I think the Bucs win this one and break their primetime Thursday night game from last year. But it's still a close one. It's not a game that they're like, oh, we finally blew out a team on primetime. 24-20 Buccaneers win this game.
You have them score less. So I always say when I'm looking at it this year, can the Eagles, the Eagles offense, if you really, really pay close attention, it comes down to they move the ball really well in the 20s. Can they get it into the end zone?
Yeah.
And so when I picked the Cowboys game right for the most part, the Chiefs game, can they keep up with the offense? So you kept trying. So I had a score written down before the show started, but you kept trying. So I wrote another score down. Maybe you would convince me to pick the Eagles, but I'm like, I don't know. So I got the Buccaneers scoring 31 on the Eagles.
Okay.
Most likely I have them losing 31-24. On the flip side, can the Eagles score 34 or 35 to beat the Buccaneers? I just don't think the Eagles are consistent yet enough that we could be confident in that. So I got 31-24 Bucs. But I think it's going to be a good game and a close game, just like you said. Everybody's picking the Eagles now because of their, I think it's 7-0 or 8-0 in their last 8 Thursday night football games. So everybody's jumping on that bandwagon as well. Again, so it's Trending for 4 Quarters on DSM Media. This is JC Allen at JC Allen NFL. This has been an awesome time. You've been a pleasure to have on from the Pewter Report at Pewter Report, obviously. I'll let you sign off with this thing. On your Twitter page, you say you're a barbecue connoisseur and you love your whiskey.
Yes, sir.
I need your favorite meat to smoke and your favorite whiskey.
Oh, okay. Put me on the spot.
Oh, man, they're tough. I didn't know it was going to be a tough question there.
Listen, I'm not a fancy guy. I don't,
no problem.
I'm not a fancy guy, right? I don't got
Neither
a lot
I'm
of money
cheap
to spend
before.
on whiskeys. So I'll go with the
All
whiskey.
these jerseys are knockoffs back here, just so you know. I'm a poor, cheap guy.
I was a big Jameson guy, right? And I got my, I got the gifts from different people, like the gold bottle and stuff like that. And I had a bottle of, aged McClellan. I think that's a Scotch more than a whiskey. But right now, I've been on a proper 12. That little Conor McGregor
guy. Yeah. I have not tried that yet.
It's super smooth. I think it's a little bit better than Jameson. But that's the guy I've been. And like I said, I like to try him. I signed up for that whiskey. They send you like the whiskey cases. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. The little vials of whiskey to try. That was a lot of fun. But barbecue, it's long, it's low and slow, but the rewards of a brisket, there's nothing of it. But if you want to do something quick for dinner, and you only have a couple hours to go, a barbecue bacon wrap split chicken breast, 2.5 hours in the smoker. Whew, that's delicious too. But anything, I mean, you give me pulled pork.
I'm a brisket guy. You can never upset me if you smoke me a brisket. So when I move to Tampa area and I come to meet you, you better have a brisket ready to go for me.
I got you. I've got 2 smokers. So
awesome. I was going to buy one recently. I'm like, we're trying to sell our shop. We're trying to move to the South. I'm like, I don't need any more junk that I have to move to Florida. So I'm resisting the urge to buy one right now. So, although I might just want to buy one and sell my mattress or something like that.
I will say one of them is an electric one, and they work pretty dang good if you're in a pinch. I
actually was looking at one of those on the Facebook Marketplace recently to buy. I'm like,
they're worth it.
Does that really count?
It does. It does. The flavor's still there, but I use my stick burner if I'm gonna do a real smoke out all day, drink a couple beers, whatever. But if I got something I got to do real quick, like a quick little 4-2 or 3-1, 3-2-1 or whatever method on ribs or some chicken, like I'll run the electric.
I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to DSM Media presents Trending for 4 Quarters. We had Buddy Walters from the Pro Level Sports Agency on. Now we got JC Allen here, who represents the Bucs there for the Pewter Report. Thank you all for tuning in so much. As always, as every other podcast in Philadelphia, we're sponsored by Manscaped. DSM, get you your 20% off. Got to throw that out there. Be live tomorrow night for the post-game and halftime reports right here. Make sure you check it out. As I end every show, go. I mean, I know it doesn't really help you, but go Birds.
Yeah, and I'll end the show with the gang meets the GOAT.
Oh, you got sound effects. I love it. I don't